everybody, and welcome to GenFriends. I'm your host, Cheri Hudson-Passy from Carolina Girl Genealogy. And of course, as always, I've got this fabulous panel, and y'all are going to be so excited. You can see who the guest is. We will get to him in a second. Melissa Barker, our archive lady, is here. Hello, Melissa.
Hi, everybody. So glad to be here.
This is going to be a fun night, isn't it? I'm glad you're here too. We've got Mary Kircher Roddy from MKR Genealogy and from the Applied Genealogy Institute. I said it right, even with 2 days no sleep.
All right.
Proud of me. We've got,
Great. Great to be here.
we got Jenny Hawran from like herding cats genealogy. Hello, Jenny.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
I'm glad you're here. Laura Hedgecock's here from Treasure Chest of Memories. Hello, Laura.
Howdy, howdy.
I'm glad you're here as well. And like he needs an introduction, Thomas MacEntee's in the house, guys. Look at this. Look at this.
Hey, how are you?
And we were just saying, wait. Why hasn't he been on before? We are such slackers.
No, that's all right. No. We get busy, life gets busy, and so it's
Exactly.
glad to be here as a guest.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here too. And you know him from everything. I mean, you teach, you write books. Yeah, I mean, you do it all. You do it
Yeah,
all. And you
yeah,
are very kind to especially us, beginning trying to get our feet in the door and get to know people, genealogists too.
right,
And we
right.
appreciate all the
Wonderful
Thank you.
mentor.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
exactly,
Thank you.
exactly. So the reason, should we cry? One of the reasons we asked you to come on is because you're retiring.
Yes,
Say
I
it
am.
isn't so, Thomas.
It is. It is. And the thing is, I think it is pretty much a full retirement because I'm retiring from the most visible part of my business, which is webinars.
Hmm.
That is how most people know me through societies. I'm doing
Hmm.
over 100 again this year. I'm
Wow.
scheduled, and I'll go into that. But yeah, I will still maintain my newsletter.
Great.
I'll probably do two legacy webinars next
Good.
year, and I'll focus on my writing. And I'll go
Mm.
into that from a business standpoint as well. But
Good.
I just think it's time. I turned 62 on Christmas Day. I decided through my financial advisor, she feels that we should be drawing the Social Security now rather than
Oh,
waiting, not
yeah.
knowing whether we'll get a full draw or not. She said, it could be that they start running out of money and they cut back benefits. But also, I had four surgeries, late last year, and you start the whole mortality effect. It holds up a mirror to your mortality, and you
Mhm.
think, and that's why I've also been a big proponent. One of my more popular lectures lately has been After You're Gone,
Right.
Future-Proofing Your Genealogy.
Right.
I had mentioned when before this started, uh, the creator of Hellenic genealogy, she passed away suddenly a
Mhm.
few weeks ago, and I'm thinking, who's going to run her websites and her databases that she spent 20, 30 years building up? So that's part of it, and I'm putting a plan in place for my own genealogy research, which is 48 years worth, and then also my business. You know,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
to do to wind down. So you guys can ask any and all questions about that,
Okay.
you know, and yeah. So go ahead.
I told him, all you viewers, to be scared, very scared
No,
of
I'm
us.
not scared at all. No.
All right, who's got the first question? Oh,
I got
Jenny.
a question.
Yeah.
Well, Thomas, you are known as so known as mentoring
Yeah.
young people. I mean,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
incoming new genies.
Right.
Tell me what your philosophy is on that. Why do you do that?
Well, the thing is, I think when I started genealogy, I was part of the Roots miniseries craze in 1977. I grew up in upstate New York. I mean, I grew up, I mean, towns of what, 50 or 100 people. There were not a lot of resources, and I
Mhm.
had no one to mentor me. and I really wish that I had. I'm getting some
I
feedback
know,
from
I'm hearing
someone.
that
That's okay.
too.
I think it's okay now. So I had no one to mentor me, and and then I sort of dabbled in it. I went to college in Washington, D.C., so I would go to NARA on the weekends. I go to Library of Congress. I had all those
Oh,
resources, but it really wasn't until about 2006 that I got back into it. And then when I was laid off from my IT job,
mhm,
but I think that the mentoring part, especially with the advent of social media, it's so easy to be disconnected from people and say, you're stupid, you don't know what you're doing, why don't you know this? And I think that and people feel free to say that, whereas they might not say it in person.
mhm,
And so, yeah, so I think mentoring is a big part of it. I also mentor from a business standpoint. Melissa knows that
mhm,
very well.
mhm.
And I have a new mentee, Natalie Webb, and I have been working since April of last year. She's in Plainfield, New Jersey.
Nice.
And she has a very similar trajectory career-wise that I did. She was in IT. She worked for Goldman Sachs and everything, and she's
Wow.
in her early 50s, and she could see that that kind of work, you don't want older workers. She wants more control over what she does and everything.
Mhm.
And so we meet about once a week on the phone, and go over things like that. But I think that's a big part of the community is mentoring, and because a lot of people look at how they enter the market for genealogy. They
Mhm.
see Finding Your Roots, which is on tomorrow
Right.
night, or they see an ancestry commercial. They try DNA.
Yeah.
The language can be complicated. The lingo we
Sure.
use, and everything, and there's no one really to guide them. So I think
Mhm.
we do need more mentors, if you ask me, and more cheerleaders.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to feel defeated.
And
Uh,
and alone, Thomas.
exactly,
And
right,
alone because you helped me in a lot of ways by introducing me to people.
right,
And
right.
and that
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
such a
Yeah,
blessing for
to be a
me.
connector, to be a
Yeah,
connector, and I think
absolutely.
that's what we all have that calling to an extent,
Hmm.
either in our, faith lives or our business lives or something like that, is to connect people that are
Hmm.
coming in the door, and that's always been my thing. Is I knew in 2008 with Twitter and everything that this rearranged the welcome mat for genealogy. It was a big opportunity. Who do you think you are was on TV.
Yes.
It was all this, like the alignment of the planets, and I
Hmm.
thought, wouldn't this be a great way? But as people come in, you don't want a revolving door. You want
Right.
them to stay.
Want them to
So
stay.
yeah.
And you've
So
always been good at seeing new trends and seeing new things coming and jumping. You've got such a gift for that. It's
yeah,
like
I
you can
know, and
read
AI
the
is the latest one, and
you
I
can
was
read
on
the
it.
tea. Yeah, you can read the
Yeah,
tea leaves.
I was on artificial intelligence last June, and
Yeah.
I knew what its potential was.
Ah,
And all of you know, if and we all have speakers here. I think for the most part, people that do webinars and teaching,
mhm, mhm.
is there's time to ramp up on a new subject to get
Sure.
something in. So usually my routine is I would work on new lectures June and July of every year
Hmm.
and have the new lectures ready in August, because that was when genealogy societies started to plan their next year. It's
Hmm.
usually always around August, September. And I tried to offer one or two new ones. This year it's create an ancestor sketch.
Yeah.
And that ties into my whole retirement philosophy,
Okay.
because
Tell
I'm
us.
thinking, so I'll explain it. I think a lot of us have that burden where we're going to write that family history book once our research is over. Ha
Yeah.
ha ha.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
never going to be
ain't gonna
over.
happen. Right. So I figured, what am I going to do with 48 years of research? I don't have direct descendants myself. I have 41 first cousins. They all have kids at number 87, and they all have kids.
Wow.
And how do I share it with them? I have no one appointed to take over for me. So I decided, if I can write about a 5-page sketch for each ancestor,
Mhm.
you string 10 or 20 together, you got a book.
It's true.
And the thing is, also, I'm focusing on with that ancestor sketch. I go to AI, and I want social history about what was it like to grow up in Manhattan in the 1880s. Because that's what the younger generation wants. They want to be able to relate. They don't want to look at a chart. They don't want to look at dates. They
Mhm.
want the unusual stories like my second great aunt who was hit by a runaway car in the Bronx and pinned against a building and died.
Yeah,
You
yeah, they
know,
definitely want that. Yeah.
yeah, they do. Well, they do. They want,
Yeah.
and then because the death certificate said pleasure automobile, they're going to ask, what is a pleasure automobile? And I had to look it up, and I used AI, and I included it in the sketch, you
Hmm.
know,
Yeah.
and so I think that's part of it. And I only focused on really one. I would say one big lecture this year. Surprisingly, the one from last year that keeps doing well is transcribing, translating, and summarizing documents using AI.
Yeah.
I mean, here it is the 20th of January, and I've already taught 15 webinars this month,
Yeah.
and a lot of them are for that. And once people see it, and I think it's important for them to see some of this stuff, this is my advice to speakers, in real time.
Hmm.
When you show something on screen,
Hmm.
that light bulb goes off.
Right.
They can't see how quickly AI can do this
Yeah.
unless they see it in real time
It's
and
true.
how accurately it can do it. But it applies to a lot of the other stuff that we do, you know? And so yeah, yeah. So the webinar thing, I will tell you, and again, I can take more questions, but let me say that,
Well, Thomas,
it's,
before you get too far
yeah,
away from
sure.
the mentoring aspect,
Yeah.
you I'll say that as May of this year, it will be 10 years ago. Can you believe that, Thomas? 10
Hmm.
years ago, in May
Wow.
2015,
Oh, wow.
that I know that I saw him in a webinar, I believe, talking about
Yeah,
mentoring.
right,
And I reached out to him, and I had been a genealogist for that, since 2000 and since 1990. I had become an archivist just 2 or 3 years before that. And once I became an archivist, that's when I realized that I had a passion for archives and archived records, and that I wanted to get the word out somehow, some way to all of my
right.
genealogy friends. So I reached out to Thomas, and he probably thought I was crazy, but I reached out with I said, okay, I have this passion. How can I get it out to other people?
And
And
you know why I mentored you is because I could see that there was a gap in the
Mm.
genealogy community, and you saw it as well for
yeah,
this
Again,
area.
again,
yeah,
you
You know,
saw it, and
yeah,
Melissa
I
was
did
smart
see
enough
it
yeah, he
to
did.
because
you to help her.
sometimes you see it when someone on Facebook says, "Yeah, can anyone point me to a good laminating machine?" and sparks come out of your head. But more
Yeah.
things. The thing is, like when I teach my webinar after you're gone, it's not just about donating what you have, it's also preserving what you have right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of
Hmm.
people leave that out. They don't realize. So no, no,
But he was
it
so
was,
gracious to
yeah,
help me to get my, I would even venture to say that the archive lady would never have been without Thomas. I mean,
thank you.
I could
Thank
sit
you.
here and say,
Oh,
yeah, maybe I'd
Yeah,
come around to it, but he
yeah,
really helped me
yeah.
not
I
only with the speaking part, but the
right,
writing part. Like you
right.
said, Cheri, he connected me with people, which he was really
hmm.
good at.
Yeah,
But
Hmm.
he was just what you said, Thomas. You were the cheerleader that I needed because
right.
when you're venturing into something new
Oh, I
that you
know.
don't know anything about, but you're
Right,
passionate, it's
right.
scary.
It is, and the thing is, my mother-in-law was from Greece. She was born there in 1933, and a lot of people that come from some of these countries, you don't trust the police, and
Hmm.
you don't be too showy. And she would often, she was amazed at what I did, but she said, "Who told you you could do this?" That was her big phrase,
Huh.
Hmm.
and I took it. This is how I took it. Who taught you how to do this?
Yeah.
Not who gave you permission to do this,
Right.
you know. But the thing is, and George's parents could never understand. What do you mean you guys work at home? Because they couldn't conceive.
Yeah.
What would you
Yeah.
make? What would you make?
Hmm.
What would you do? She was a seamstress, and his dad was an engineer,
Yeah.
and so. But no, no, the 5 years, God, I can't believe it was that long ago. But also, I think that I helped you build your business.
Hmm.
I
You
had
did.
advice based on what I was doing, and whenever I mentor someone, uh, I don't want them to be a mimic. I want to lay out a buffet of options that have
Hmm.
worked for me, And I always say your mileage may vary, you know. And so, and I know that, Melissa does, you don't do as much affiliate work as I do, but
No.
that's fine.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you like you just said, you laid it all the options out,
Right. Right.
and I tried them all. It's kind of like a buffet. I tried them
Yeah.
all,
Yeah.
and then I stuck with the ones that worked with me very well. And I
Right.
can tell you, even
Mhm.
when I was pretty much on my feet, going on
Mhm.
my own, when I had questions, I could still reach out to
Oh,
Thomas, and he
sure.
was
Oh,
always
yeah.
there. And
Oh,
so,
yeah. Yeah.
it's just been, I
Yeah.
just want to say thank you. I've said
You're
thank you before
welcome.
in
You're
public before,
welcome.
but
You're welcome. Yeah.
it's because I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
This year I'm
Yeah.
actually coming kind of slowing down a little bit as far as webinars and things.
Right.
Because I've been doing it now for so long,
Yeah.
but I'm still got that passion. I'm going to be
Sure.
concentrating more on my archives work and things, but
Exactly. And
I
the
am
thing is,
just
you become an authority in that field
Mhm.
because you write more blog
Sure.
posts, you write guest
Hmm.
blog posts, you
Yeah.
you do interviews, and that's what it is. For me, everything, well, it's not about sales, but I always say that there's a funnel. Everything, and you remember that, Melissa, everything feeds into that funnel, you
Yes.
know, and it's every little thing that goes in there. So, anyone want to ask me about webinars and the logistics and why I'm leaving webinars?
Tell
Yes,
us,
Please.
Tell
tell
us,
us,
tell us
tell
Thomas.
that.
us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, the thing is, I've streamlined the scheduling as much as possible. The thing is, people have a landing page, they understand the process, they
Mhm.
look at my 40 topics, they go ahead and they look up my calendar, which is online, to see if there's an opening, and then they fill out a Google form. And when that comes in, usually I can turn around a speaking agreement, an invoice, a transmittal letter, a
Mhm.
description of the webinar, and a headshot and bio and get them out to that. But there's the administrative part of that and going back and forth on emails, you
Mhm.
know. And then I always sign in early to kibitz somewhat, but also the technical. So when you're talking about it, a 1 hour webinar, sometimes I'm spending up to 2 hours of time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I've kept my rates relatively low. During COVID, I did $100, and
Mhm.
people said I was crazy. Well, it was crazy because I did 221 webinars that year because COVID pushed all of us
Oh yeah.
into, and
Yep.
now society say, I don't know why we didn't do this sooner,
Yeah.
why we didn't do hybrid meetings, or why we didn't do this. I mean, they're getting more participation from people that couldn't leave the house,
Right.
etc. But the thing is, there's a big logistics, and you've got to follow up and chasing down money and invoices. Oh, I hate to do that, but
Mhm.
sometimes you do,
Mhm.
and yeah. So and then updating because I'm doing technology. You've got to up. I do a lot more updates than I think most speakers do.
Well, you talk
Uh,
about AI once, and you can't do the same one. You've got to update it.
no, yeah,
Change right
exactly. Well,
after you gave the
right,
webinar. It will be changed.
right, and the model will change, and new
Yeah.
things will come out, and
Yeah.
everything, and yeah. So the thing is, there's that aspect as well. But this year's been good because I don't feel the pressure to create new lectures,
Mhm.
uh, to do it that way. But yeah, and when you look at it for income, I think webinars were only about 15% of my overall income last year. It's very visible part of my
Yeah.
business,
Yeah.
but in terms of that, and as a rule, just so everyone knows, my target is I like to make after taxes $50 an hour, which is, in today's economy is not a lot, but the thing is, that's what goes into factor into it in
Mhm.
terms of the speaking fee, creating a new presentation. You've got to deliver it sometimes at least 10 times to
Yeah.
recover that money,
Yeah.
and yeah. Yeah, so that also the schedule. The schedule is tough, I have to say. Uh, it's a matter of if it's Tuesday, it must be Belgium. Have a big calendar on the refrigerator with all the webinars marked and everything like that. And then when I'm in Palm Springs, which is where I'm going to retire, I'll be there in May and June. Sometimes I have to get on at 5 in the morning
Yeah.
locally you
Yeah.
know and it, meals revolve around it. Everything in this household revolves around whether Thomas or not is teaching you know and that can be a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
January, February, March, heavy periods, and then it will pick up again in October,
Yeah.
and September, October. But no, I'm happy, I'm blessed that I'm booked. It's mostly by
Mhm.
word of mouth and
Yes.
repeats.
Yes.
you know. And this is also why my schedule is on it's on my website is part of giving back
Mhm.
because you can go and see who I'm teaching for, and I give a link to their society,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and try and get on because not all of them
That's a good
advertise
idea.
on Conference Keeper,
Right.
you know, so they have their own little series, and so yeah, and I am gonna miss the webinars. I mean, it is in a way it's performing. We all know that, you know, and it's a way of connecting with people. Another way of giving back, if you've attended my webinars as well, is I always advertise that my handouts are available as articles for free for
Mm-hmm.
genealogy societies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is marketing because you're getting another channel there. But
Right.
the thing is, I know what it's like. I've done those newsletters
Yes.
before,
Yes.
to do that. Yeah.
It's hard to get. I
What
think
else
Jenny's got
about?
it.
Go
I think
ahead.
Jenny's
Yeah,
got it.
Jenny.
Yeah, well, I'm interested in what you said you are going to focus on your writing,
Yeah.
and I'm interested in what you're going to write about.
Well, I just started promoting my new copyright and genealogy book.
Ooh.
And it's brand new, and it's about, it says, "Can I use that in my genealogy?" A guide for copyright and family history. And I've been big when I'm writing lately. I create appendices, and I have an appendix on U.S. copyright law, appendix on EU copyright law, one on Canadian, and one on UK because they are different. A lot of
Yeah.
genealogists don't realize that a vital record from the UK is copyrighted by the Crown, you know. So I wanted to make sure it covered all of the English language there. I also give scenarios and case studies. You know,
Mhm.
Rachel is a genealogist who found her great grandmother's diaries, and so it's real. That's the way I want to write, and so that's what I also did in the other book that came out at the end of December, AI and Genealogy, a practical handbook for summarizing, transcribing, and translating historical documents.
Mm.
That one has appendices. I do one on German Fraktur. I do a whole thing
Oh.
on German Fraktur with AI. I do a whole thing on Jewish records, and we're talking Cyrillic, Hebrew, and Yiddish in both printed and handwriting. And then I do one of the best ones is I took a 1916 family history book, the Putnam Descendants, and show how to use AI to extract the surnames and map out migration routes by generation. And AI was able to do it, you know.
Wow.
And so yeah, so the other books I have, I am going to do one on creating an ancestor sketch.
Mhm.
Uh, the other one, oh, this one is Stealth. This book is out, and you guys don't know it. It's called From Dust to Data, using the International List of Causes of Death and the
Oh.
International Classification of Diseases
Oh my
for
goodness.
genealogy research.
Wow.
And what I've done is I've taken, since that information is public domain, I
Mhm.
built tables for every revision. It started in 1900, so you've got to make sure you're using the right year
Yeah. Yeah.
to do that. And then as a side, I just this is more of a toss to I doubt maybe institutions will buy it in libraries, but I did all of the 10 revisions of lists.
Hmm.
So revisions 1 through 9 as I think is 600 pages, and revision 10 by itself is almost 700 pages.
Good grief.
And it's just the catalog, the categories, and the codes. And I've had people say, "Yeah, I want this. I don't want to have to hunt around on the internet.
Yeah.
I want this." And I have to say that Kindle has made it much easier with
Yeah.
Kindle Create.
Yeah.
They have a new version, I should warn you, Jenny, that I've switched to. It's called Amazon Print Replica.
Hmm.
So it doesn't read like a Kindle book. It basically, and it won't work on a Kindle device. It only works on the app, but it is basically a PDF of the print version.
Hmm.
And a lot of people like that more. A lot of my crowd don't have devices; they have the app,
Yeah.
to do that.
Thomas,
The
I'm
other,
a little confused. I'm gonna interrupt you just for a minute. I'm a little confused. All these surgeries, you're very, very busy. What?
well, what do
But
you
you've
do
done
when you
all this?
recover? When you recover, no, when you recover, especially in October with the gallbladder and everything, I'm
Yeah,
sitting here and I'm like, I'm just finally going to go back to writing, and
I
that's what I
love
want to
it.
do when I
I was just like,
retire. you
goodness
know.
gracious, you're
Yeah.
the busiest man I
Yeah,
know.
and then the other one is going to be a fun one. It's going to be called the Big Book of Genealogy Lists. It's going to be the
Oh,
list of first name abbreviations, occupation abbreviations, occupy and archaic medical terminology. What
Some
else
real
nice.
do I
nerdy
have there?
stuff.
Yeah, real
Cities,
nerdy stuff, but
city
stuff we all
directory
need.
abbreviations. It's like
Yeah.
an
It's true.
almanac. Yeah. So I
Yeah, we
decided to
need
call it the Big Book of Genealogy Lists, and I'm
it.
about halfway through putting that out, and probably I'm targeting, I hope, April. And it's all again, it's where I would have to know, oh yeah, that
Yeah,
website carries, those abbreviations
right.
and this
Now
one
they're
and
all aggregated
nicknames.
into
There's
your book.
I have
Yep.
a thousand nicknames for given names in
Wow.
English. And so yeah, that will be in the form of book. And it's not just purely lists. There'll be some advice on how to use it. Then
Nice.
the other thing that I'm also doing is and I would advise anyone that really, if you are a writer and you're looking for a little bit of mad money or pin money, as my grandmother, and you know why it's called pin money? Do you know, Cheri?
I think I've heard it before. Didn't they actually pin it?
No, it's because pins and needles were very expensive around 1900. They were very
Oh,
expensive
because
to
I know that
buy.
some
Yeah, I
women
know
would
there's
pin,
that
they
pin
would,
it.
yeah,
No, no, no.
yeah.
I was
Okay.
told the original was that these were
Okay.
expensive items to have.
I
And so,
gotcha.
yeah, but I've been writing for my Heritage Wiki.
Yeah.
My Heritage is building a wiki,
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
and I've written, I think I've written 10% of their articles so far. Uh, but things,
He's
that
retiring, people. He's
yeah, I know. No,
retiring.
well,
Sure.
see, but I am. But no, the writing will, it
Yeah.
will slow down.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've got elder care duties too. My father-in-law is
Hmm.
93. He'll be
Yeah.
94, and God
Yep.
bless him, he still drives and still lives alone. But we know in the future he's going to need
Right.
more care.
Sure.
Uh, but no, you'll see me mostly, and the newsletter will still be there.
Yeah.
And but I've also cut back on social media. I think,
Yeah.
I think from a psychological standpoint, there's times when I've just said I need a break.
Hmm.
You know, and I don't want my world to become smaller, and that's too easy to do sometimes.
Hmm.
Speaking of connecting, you know, but the thing is, yeah, I need to pull back a bit, and we don't see too many people announcing their retirement. I mean, Elizabeth Shown Mills just said she's not going to do webinars anymore. She,
Right.
had the 2-year series,
Yeah.
uh, but I think it's one of those things like we do this until we die, and we do
Yeah.
in a way, we do, you know.
Well,
Pat
that's why I
tried it and it
wanted
didn't work for her. She came back.
Of course, right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what
we
I
can.
wanted to have you on for us because, as I mentioned before we started recording, is that there's a lot of us in the professional genealogy world and just in the genealogy world
Yeah.
that do this for a living or for content. A lot of them are aging and maybe
Yeah.
contemplating retirement. So
Yeah.
I thought
Yeah.
it'd be
Yeah.
great to hear from you. But
Well,
another question I had for you is, you're retiring, but and I know that, professional genealogists retire, but genealogists never
Never
right.
retire.
retire.
Right. Right.
And
Right. Right.
so, what in your own personal genealogy that you have always wanted to do that you've never gotten to do that you might do now that you're
I
Yeah.
retired?
love that question.
Yeah, that is a great question. I
That's
would love
good.
to be able to go to Germany and go back to, because I am so early American. It's not even funny. I mean, I was one of the first ones to go westward. Yeah, this was when I moved to California. My family is so New York and so Rhode Island, it's not even funny. But my Hennebergs are from Germany, and I
Mhm.
would love to go there if I could do
Yeah.
that. We've been talking about doing maybe one of the river cruises, etc.
Ooh, nice.
And to do that, that's probably it. I also want to get as many of these ancestor sketches published,
Mhm.
donated to the Allen County Public Library. That's where I intend to donate most of my research. I've already donated stuff and photos to Schenectady Historical Society in New York and to
Oh,
the
that's a great idea.
Huguenot Historic Society. I'm the other project I have that I'll probably start soon is because now with AI has changed everything. I have 5 years of my great grandmother's handwritten diaries from when they
Oh,
retired to upstate New York. And
oh,
it's in pencil, it's on notebook, paper, and so I've got to
Oh,
scan them, but it's perfect for AI
yes.
to do that and put that
Yeah.
together. And but yeah, yeah, basically, I've got all of these things, and I need to do more of walking the walk than talking the talk. And because if something happens to me, I already have plans in place as to directions what should happen, you know.
Hmm.
And but yeah, my gallbladder thing started out as a cancer scare because I have a
Yes.
lesion on my pancreas.
Yes.
And it's only 11 millimeters, but I have to go back for an MRI every 6 months. But it really, you start to talk about estate planning and things like that.
Hmm.
And yeah, but I think, Melissa, that would be the one. I really would like to do that.
That'd be great.
And who knows, maybe travel to, this year I'm taking the year off from Roots Tech. I love Rootstack, but even as a media person or a speaker online, there are a lot of deadlines and a lot of procedures, and it's very structured. And I felt like last year I wasn't at my optimum, so I decided just to take a break. But I would love to go back to Rootstack maybe in 2026,
Well, just
things like
come,
that.
just come to say hi to
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah, I know. But also winding down a business. I mean, this is why I'm doing the writing, is I want long-term, long tail income from those royalties.
Hmm.
I mean, that's
Yes,
retirement money, and that's what it is.
makes
And
sense.
then I also, in my estate planning, we've made plans for what to do with my copyrighted material.
Mm.
You know, so probably I'll wind up donating it to Internet Archive,
Ah,
which means you put it in the public domain. I may do
right.
that with my teaching materials as well.
Hmm.
Why not give it to the community? Why am I hoarding this knowledge?
Yeah.
So people will be able to download a PowerPoint slide presentation and they can then, do a riff off of it on their own. So that Internet Archive is who I've been working with on that, and they have
Oh,
a very simple procedure, to do that. Uh,
nice.
I,
but yeah,
yeah, I mean, Cheri already mentioned this. You've always been a visionary to be able to
Yeah.
see, where the, what where things were going. So, we do have a lot of young people that we see that are, online that we've befriended, who are trying to make their way in this
yeah,
business, business professionally. What
yeah.
what do you think some of the challenges are going to be for these young people?
Well, the challenges I think are some of the platforms are not inducive to archiving
Mm.
that they're using. I think Melissa would say the same thing,
That's it. Yeah,
like look at
Right.
me with my blog that I had my blog for really active for 11 years. What's going to happen with my blog posts? You
Mhm.
know, luckily I have them all saved and saved even, in XML, but that's a format that's not going to serve me. But go and print out my blog posts and those also can get archived with Allen County Public Library.
cool.
That's my biggest thing is that they're using platforms, who knows what's going to happen to TikTok, etc. Uh, and I also think that I know there's sort of an anti-baby boomer movement among the youngers, okay boomer and things like that. But we're the
Yes.
connection, we're that
Yeah,
bridge
that's true.
between those older World War II and World War One people. That's
Yeah.
why my great grandparents fascinated me. In 1977, watching Roots, they were both born in the 1890s in New York, and I couldn't get enough of their stories.
Wow.
You know, and so I think that's the challenge as well is social media makes it very easy to live in a bubble and not to go outside that bubble, but also
Very true.
archiving those memories. You're making memories when you're on Instagram and all of this, but then what are you doing to save them? There are services out there that will take all your Facebook, a year of Facebook. I think Heather Rojo Wilkinson Rojo was doing this,
Hmm.
where she would do a year of her Facebook posts, and boom, blurb would put it in a book. You know,
Yes.
but I
Yes.
don't think we think about that. It's one thing to live in the moment,
Yeah.
but it's another thing to think. And then next thing you know, folks, it's 30 years later,
Yeah.
or
Oh, yeah.
you're talking about your your 50th high school reunion, and things like that. And it's like, oh yeah, and I can't remember this, or things like that. So, yeah.
Laura, did you have a question?
No, I'm just,
Oh, okay. I thought
my
I saw you.
head's just so heavy, it needed some
No, I just
support.
got it. I thought I saw your hand up, and so I thought we passed over.
Yeah.
You had a question. Who
No,
has a
I really agree with most of what Thomas is saying, as you know, and I see too the innovations that are coming out that are meant to appeal to young people
Yeah.
Yeah.
as requiring you to use only that,
Right.
not integrating in with existing
Exactly.
infrastructures.
Exactly.
That they
Yeah.
want you to, you do all your writing on this app.
Right.
Yes, because now you've got a superpower, right? According to the National Archives, if you can read cursive writing.
Yeah,
So,
I was surprised
yeah,
by that. The only reason I was surprised by that is that, AI is handling cursive writing so well
yeah,
right now.
yeah.
The one thing you want to know, the one thing it doesn't do, shorthand.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Well,
Oh,
and I thought to myself, well, Greg Shorthand had a dictionary, but I
Mm-hmm.
talked to an engineer at ChatGPT, and she said no. She says because everyone had their own style when they
Oh,
wrote. I think eventually
uh,
something will happen like that, but I
yeah.
can't tell you how many times I hear from someone, yeah, my aunt did genealogy in the 50s and she did it all in shorthand. Or, and so what are you going to
well,
do with that stuff?
when you handle county government records like I do, my archives, yeah, back then they did shorthand. So I have a
Yes.
lot of documents that have shorthand on
Yes.
them. And you're right, even from one secretary to the next,
Right. And
I think
that's
it
what
depends
makes
on
it
how they were
difficult.
taught.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah,
Mm.
exactly. Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm excited about the technologies, but I think that yeah, and this is why I've always said to people, when you sign up for any of these platforms, always have an exit strategy. If
Yeah.
you're uploading your content, you should know how to get it out of there
Mhm.
and things like that. But
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say my next question to you, and and it's a difficult one, but
Sure.
and it's one that's kind of near and dear to my heart. The other last weekend, I spoke to a genealogical society in California,
Yeah.
and this is their last year as a genealogical
Yeah.
society.
Oh,
They have been a genealogical society for 70 years as of this year.
oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Now, I know a lot of us blame COVID on a lot of this, but I don't have a blame, but I mean, I'm kind of like you in that way. I kind of look at situations and go, hey, well, why is this happening? How can it be fixed? Whatever. I asked them, I said, well, why are you closing down? Just it's because everyone's aging or dying and there's no one to take it over. The technology is above a lot of what they can handle. They can't pivot to webinars per se, although this one has pivoted to webinars, but they're after 70 years.
So
And
sad.
so, but then again, you have societies like I'm on the board of directors of the Kentucky Genealogical Society and the Tennessee, and they are flourishing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, and
Yeah.
so I know that you're a man of ideas, and so I hate to see these societies go away.
Yeah, I do too. And I most of the societies that are existing now were created from around the American Bicentennial and around Roots.
Hmm.
So when you say 70, that really stands out. The thing is that I don't think enough time is spent on recruitment of new members and younger members.
Mhm.
And then when you do find a younger member, please do not put them to work right away saying, yeah, you're going to handle our,
amen.
seriously,
Amen.
do not put, no, let them experience the joy of genealogy and
Yeah.
finding their ancestors and everything. I think that uh, and this is not in a bad way, but genealogy societies have become social clubs for
Mm-hmm.
older people.
Mm-hmm.
And they just go to socialize. They really don't care what the program is. You
Exactly.
know, they're probably not actively working on their research, you know.
Yeah.
So I think there need to be incentives on that. And that's why I think my lecture After You're Gone has picked up in popularity. One of the groups is a lot of societies are starting special interest groups on writing family stories and
Mm-hmm.
preserving them.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the answer too, is if you have a board that is active and they say, hey, we're going to have a special interest group on this topic. On AI, those are popping up as well,
Mm.
to keep people interested.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one thing that I always see is people will join a society, uh, and then a skill becomes known and they get assigned with
Yep.
work and it sucks all the joy out of it, you know? So does that make sense, Melissa? Yeah.
Absolutely, it does. And
Yeah,
I think it
Mary,
also,
yeah.
and I think it also,
Well,
the larger question is volunteerism.
Oh,
Mm.
yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
in our communities, and I don't know if it's because it's not taught in schools or I don't know what, but it just seems like volunteerism is not as strong
No,
as it
it's not.
used to be in our
No.
parents' time, even in our younger times. I don't know if it's because people having to take care of their families more or work more, but the volunteers are just not
I
there.
also think it's solopreneurism and influencer. Why am I not getting paid for this? See,
Oh,
if you've
gotcha.
constantly got that mode, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so people would say that. Mary, it looks like you had
Yeah,
a
Mary, you had a
question.
question.
Yes.
I one thing just to back to societies, um, I probably started doing genealogy big time in my 40s and became editor of my local genealogy society publication or director of publications. And there were a lot of 70-year-olds that I wanted to do something. No, we don't do that. That's not the way we do it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And there just is too much of that. And I mean,
There is.
once I understand it 3 times, it's like, why
Yeah.
do I even want to do this?
Well, this is
And so I think
yeah.
it's the old guard mentality
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
Well, but
really
Mary,
a problem
Mary,
for
this is why
genealogy societies.
COVID was such a savior, is it really did the kick in the pants to do the webinars. Societies had no choice. They were up against the wall, and if they were going to maintain a society for that pandemic period, they had, and there were some fumbling and everything. And I offered so much. I was using my platform for that COVID year of 2021 in case the society didn't have it. But you're right. We do hit that, well, this is the way we've always done it, and well, that's the route to extinction. I mean, it
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
and then don't be surprised if a rival society starts up, you know. Uh, yeah,
And you're losing members. So
yes,
is that model working for you?
Right.
right,
I mean,
Right.
exactly,
come
right,
here.
right.
Exactly.
And when you
Absolutely.
lose members, you lose a body of knowledge.
Oh yeah.
You do, and people who contribute information and things like that. So. The other part I wanted to talk about was also
Mhm.
winding down the financial side and the legal side of a business. Is
Yes.
that's all in my estate planning as well,
Yeah.
in terms of business license and assets and everything like that. And if there are debts and paying them off, you've got to cover that as well, you
Yeah.
know. So 70% of my income has always been affiliate marketing, but I have to tell you guys, it's gotten tougher the past few years. There's a lot of competition. When I started out as an Ancestry affiliate, hey, the money was pouring in, but guess who got in on the business? CNET, Forbes, all these news platforms now.
Yes.
If you look, they talk
Yeah.
about products and everything. It's all affiliate marketing.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, now I can barely get Ancestry's ear on something, whereas before, yeah, they would listen to me.
Mhm.
So the affiliate marketing, and I try and do it in a balanced format. When I run the genealogy do-over group, I try and have free cheat sheets and
Mhm.
focus on that. But yeah, for me to survive, I've got to have promotions.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. And they've also cut down. Ancestry used to pay a 30% commission on a membership, and now I think it's 12%,
Wow.
So they really over the years have cut down or eliminated. 23andMe did away with theirs a few years ago outright. So yeah. And I would say then the other 15% is my writing. That's the other percent of the income that comes in. So, yeah. But there's that aspect too, is winding all that down, and that goes in with your estate planning, how to close that out.
So you can't just say, I'm retiring.
No, you can't. Laura.
Okay, so I was about to ask you a question, but now I'm going to jump on my soapbox for
Sure.
just a second. So this is years ago, but when my parents were killed in a car wreck, they had done estate planning, but nobody knew much about it. And for some reason, they had this estate planning documents on the couch in the basement underneath the artificial Christmas tree branches.
So in
And
other
so we
Okay.
words,
went to the
put it
safe
where people
deposit
can find
box,
it.
and we only found a will that was written 2 months before I was born. So
Well,
my,
Oh
my
God.
soapbox moment, and then I'll ask you my question.
The knockbox. He's got
the
the
knockbox.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. If you
Yeah,
don't know
it's
the
to let
knockbox,
your
Yep.
do your estate planning, let your family know
please
where
let
it
them know.
is.
Yes.
Yes.
And involve, so we knew there was one existing because
Yeah.
they involved us. But
Yes.
my
So go ahead.
but my question to you is totally different, is part of winding down, in my opinion, is really finding a way to focus on what makes your heart sing.
Yeah.
I
So
love
what is it
that.
that makes your heart sing that
Oh,
you're going to do in retirement?
Well, what I really want to get back into, and people don't know this, I did choir singing for about 25 years in church. I want to take voice lessons. I want to get back into that, maybe community choir. I have a bass baritone voice that used to do a lot of solo work, old church music back in the 80s and 90s,
mm.
and for various churches. And so that would be one of them as well. I want
Oh,
to get back to the more physical things. It's this is why I want to leave Chicago. Is the winters just kill me?
yeah.
The seasonal affective disorder. I have my light here, my
Mm-hmm.
sad light, and getting out. And I always, I become heftier and more like a Lane Bryant sized guy in the winter, stocking up because I don't get out and exercise. So probably more of that as well. And yeah, most of our friends, believe it or not, have moved to Palm Springs area. For
Oh,
Chicago, it's not Florida. Usually I find the East Coast,
Hmm.
Florida.
yeah.
Chicago and anything Midwest, they tend to be going to Arizona and Southern California. And that would be it, and yeah, but we also have responsibilities with George's dad. I mean, I grew up
Mm-hmm.
in a family where, elderly people were worshipped. They were not put into assisted living or anything.
Mm-hmm.
They were kept at home, and the
Yeah.
whole family, everything revolved around their care.
Yeah.
And that's the promise that we've made to all of our parents, George and I. And so yeah, so that's part of it. Yeah. But no, I would really like to get back into singing and
Oh,
doing that.
I
Yeah.
And
love
I
that.
Yeah.
predict we'll see an album one day.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh sure.
That's
Uh-huh.
work.
Not
It's
a,
Uh-huh.
not an
work.
album. He's gotta get with the times. He's gonna put something
No.
on Spotify. He's
But
gotta
I'll but I'll use
Apple
I'll use
Music.
AI to write my
There you
lyrics for
go.
genealogy
There you
songs.
go.
Yeah, for genealogy songs. Yeah.
So
That would
tell
be
us about
great.
your knockbox.
The knockbox is here in case you haven't seen it. I don't think my light will help much, but yeah, it's one of those things where it's everything is organized. Now, in a way, they also sell the guts where it's just the
Hmm.
folders, you
Hmm.
know. And so, here I've got one for my business. A whole area for
Oh,
my business, passports, birth certificates, estate planning, insurance, vehicles, properties, because we have a rental property. Everything is here. It's also I like that it comes in. There's a fireproof version.
oh,
When I lived through the '89 earthquake in San Francisco, I was on the 38th floor of an office building. Thought I was going to die, and so after that, I've always had a to-go box by the door.
hmm,
It's got
hmm,
family photos. It's got my solid state drive. It's got sneakers, wind-up radio,
hmm.
flashlight, and everything. And this fits in perfectly with it.
Perfect.
Just to go and to take it. But also, NOK stands for next of kin.
So
And
Ken,
why
yeah, I
should
was
they
just
go
gonna
on a
say that.
scavenger hunt? Now I'm
Yeah.
always going to think of your story, Laura, when I think about the knockbox, to do that. And yeah, and we've talked to our nieces and nephews in terms of
Yes.
what we've set aside for them, because originally it was for college money. Well, now they don't need that. So then, and we're constantly changing our
Hmm.
estate planning stuff. But I think it's important. It's not an easy topic to talk about.
No,
George and
No,
I,
it's
we
not, because you're
lost.
confronting your mortality.
Right. Well, we
exactly.
lost since COVID, and not COVID related. We've had 15 people, all in their 60s, just pass away suddenly
Oh, wow.
that we know, between genealogy, and our
Oh, okay.
friends, and it's amazing. And one person, I spent a week trying to find his mother in Georgia because she had remarried and he was distanced from the family,
Hmm.
separated. But this happens as well, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And try and find next of kin, and meanwhile his body's sitting here at the Cook County morgue, you
Hmm.
know. And so, yeah, it's something we don't like to talk about, but it's
Exactly.
something that, and we have all these tools and technologies now. Did you know that Ancestry now lets you designate a legacy person?
Yes.
Yeah. Mhm.
And MyHeritage does that
Yes.
as well. Google, Facebook, you can convert
Yep.
someone's account to a memorial page.
Yes.
They realize that baby boomers are leaving a larger digital footprint,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
and to do that. But no, I was just using this the other day because we applied and we got our real ID here in Illinois. We wanted to be ahead of the curve,
Yes.
before everyone, because the deadline I think is May 7th or 17th or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And to do that. But no, I love it. I love it. I just wish I had gotten the fireproof one.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
want people to know that you can all, and it's just Knockbox, NOK, BOX. You can buy the inner part and use a banker's box or whatever
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
container you want, and that brings
Yeah.
the price down. So,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. My,
yeah,
my my husband's got a knock drawer in his desk, but you can't take that anywhere. So I've been saying we need to get the
yeah,
box so we can pick it
yeah,
up
exactly.
and
Right,
take it. And then Miss
right.
Peggy's got the book When I Wake Up Dead. So
Yeah,
Yes.
she can read them on
I
her
know.
own.
Yeah, we used to have one called, it was a binder called If Thomas Gets Hit by a Bus. Because what I still do is I have a spreadsheet with all my accounts and it's super password protected, but I print it out every 3 months and it goes into the knockbox
Mhm.
so someone can start to shut down. I tell you, I had the hardest time when my mother with her Alzheimer's,
Mhm.
she wasn't on the computer, but she had over 100 credit cards.
Oh my
She
God.
would go into
Wow.
Wow.
Macy's. She'd go into Macy's, and they would because the cashier person would get $15 bonus with a new
Yes.
account. Oh, let's
Mm.
just open another one. My
Yeah.
mother's walking around with $1 million worth of credit,
Oh
and
my
these are the old
gosh.
days when you had to write letters to shut that
Oh
down. You
wow.
know,
Oh no.
but the thing is, yeah, I learned this when I did estate planning. We For my mom, we had elder care attorney because
Yeah.
I didn't want a Terry Schiavo situation with
Yeah.
my brother where I'm making decisions, in terms of do not resuscitate and feeding tube, and
Right.
he's in disagreement. I didn't want any of that, and it was around
Yeah.
that time, and I'm so glad I did. But I learned a lot about estate planning
Right.
as well, to do that.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you said you're retiring. Do you have an official retirement date?
Well, probably it'll probably be on my birthday this coming year,
Okay.
And
and
that's Christmas Day?
Christmas Day, yes, Christmas Day, yeah, and like I said, I'm just starting to draw. My first Social Security check should be next month into the bank, and but yeah, and I'm also trying to get George. He turned 65 this year, so also this is what we had to do. He goes to Medicare. So we
Yeah.
had to change our health care. I'm on Obamacare on my both of us now, but then I have to switch it to single and
Yeah.
uh
Yeah.
and that's the hardest part about having a genealogy business. Unless you have a spouse or someone that can carry the insurance, and let me
Yeah.
tell you,
It's
that is
hard.
a big deal. We were
Yep.
paying 2,000 a month for Cobra
Mm-hmm.
since George lost his job, and
Yeah.
and now I'm able to bring it down to 1,200 or whatever through Obamacare, but it's a big expense.
Yes, it is.
It
Yeah.
really
It really
is.
is.
I don't
That's
know if
where
you
we
remember
are.
What's
you and
that?
I discussed that when you did the Bloggers thing and you were
Yeah,
just looking into it. So yeah.
yeah, yeah, it is. And the one thing I don't know if I regret or not regret is not getting business insurance. Business insurance would run about $1,000. I think if you're a researcher and taking research clients, you do need errors and omissions insurance.
Mm.
If you're familiar with that to
Mhm.
protect yourself. I don't know, Mary, have you ever thought about insurance or do you have insurance for your business?
No, but
Yeah.
I'm really careful about the clients
Right,
that
right. So am
I
I.
take.
So am I. But
And the
yeah,
kind of work,
yeah,
I think if you're doing somebody's personal genealogy
right.
versus forensic kind of
Exactly.
genealogy, it's a
Right,
Yeah.
different
right.
Yeah.
ballgame.
It's a whole
So
But
different game.
my problem was the social media exposure. All it takes is
Yes.
one bizarre, I did have a stalker, by the way. So, you've made a genealogy when you have
When
a
you've got a
stalker.
stalker.
Oh yeah, she would
I
send
don't
me
ever want to
this
make it
woman
now.
would show up at genealogy conferences and then she would send me intimate things in the mail. So, yeah, yeah, so Yeah, I know Jenny's having field day with this, so I had to get a temporary restraining order, and that was a few years ago. That was a good
Oh,
girl laugh. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Oh yeah, yeah. So, and Lisa Louise Cook, she said to me once, she said, you've made it in genealogy when you have
Yes.
a stalker.
Yes.
So,
Oh
yeah,
my
yeah,
gosh.
yeah,
wow.
Well,
You
yeah,
know,
Thomas,
we,
with you
oh, go ahead.
retiring,
yeah.
what advice, or what, I'm gonna say, parting, because you're not really parting, but
Yeah.
what advice would you give to not just professional genealogists or those that are in the business, but to any genealogist, from what your vast knowledge and all the years you've done this, what is the one thing you would tell us to do?
Mm.
Be abundant. And
Uh-huh.
that's
Yep,
my
for
Yes.
motto.
sure.
That
Yep,
is. The thing is I
yep.
came into this world with nothing and I'm leaving with nothing.
Yeah.
And that's the way I look at it. I think too many of us, like I said, this whole idea of why don't we have volunteerism is because
Hmm.
now it's so easy to have a side gig.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And well, why can't volunteerism be your side gig?
Yeah.
Like people that I have friends that are unemployed, and I said, "Damn it, go volunteer at the Chamber of Commerce. It may lead into a job." But
Yeah.
we don't see this. We want that's the American way, instant results. And
Mm-hmm.
of all people, Melissa, there was no easy button on building your business.
No,
You
no,
don't get followers overnight.
Nope.
no,
You didn't get speaking gigs. They would say,
no.
Melissa, who, right?
Yeah.
And that's just
Yep.
it. But we see these tales of influencers, and I hate that word. But the thing is, I think that's it. But be abundant. I mean, I've actually been criticized for giving away so much. But the thing is, I don't know. I know that not every genealogist can do it.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, if you have a business and you can come up with just one cheat sheet,
Mm-hmm.
that's part of your sales funnel. And, to advertise your business, things like that. But what are you going to do with all this information? That's why I really wanted, put as much of my stuff in the public domain after I die. And that's the directive, you
Yeah.
know, it's not going to benefit me. It's not going to be, and royalty checks aren't going to be so massive that my family will benefit from it. So why lose that information? Yeah,
Yeah.
but I would say the thing is to be abundant. And even,
Love that.
there's so many people that work from a point of scarcity. They're afraid of competition. It's always been, there's enough room at the table with me.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has a different angle on something, you know,
So true.
and that's what it is. But it's also, and not to get into my faith, but in the book of Genesis with manna from heaven, the bread would come down from heaven, but the rule was it only lasted a day,
Yeah,
and you could only take what you could fit in your apron,
exactly.
you know, and you've got to trust that there will be something,
Yeah,
the next day.
exactly.
And that's the whole idea with abundance as well. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This has been wonderful. We're gonna miss you though. I know you're
Yeah.
still going to
Yeah.
be around,
Yeah.
but it's gonna
Yeah.
be
You
different.
can ask me for an interview next year and check in and see how
Okay, we'll do
retirement's
that.
going.
We'll
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 do
say,
do
that.
that.
oh my
Yeah.
gosh,
Sounds
I
great.
promise.
Yeah.
We will
Yeah.
do that.
Okay.
Thank you so
Good.
much.
Thank
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 you,
you.
you
Thomas.
so
All right.
much.
Thank you,
Okay. I'll talk to you
Thomas.
We
guys
love
later.
you,
Okay.
and
Love you too.
we will see you guys next time
Okay.
on Gen Friends. Bye,
Okay.
everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.